Hello, folks at home. Welcome back to the Hot Diggity Dog Read to Your Dog at Home series. This is Chapter 6 from the Adventures of Humboldt, and our friend Humboldt is looking on, ready to listen. Chapter 6. Mrs. Gummidge set out 3 plates of gingerbread cake with Devonshire cream on the table. "How are you getting on with all those worn-out soles?" she asked Izaak. Humboldt peered at Izaak. "Soles?" "Shoe soles, Humboldt. I'm long-time shoemaker. You come in and visit me one day at my shop and meet my lovely dog, Radinsky. By the way, what job are you doing?" Humboldt had to think for a minute. What did he do exactly? He grubbed for worms and slugs, danced, composed rhymes, sang, slept, and mostly he thought. None of which was a trade, but it helped a troll get through life. "I'm associated with a bank, a very old bank, in fact." "Which one?" asked Izaak politely. "The R.B.," replied Humboldt. "This bank I don't know. Where is it?" "Rather near the Thames. As I mentioned, it's very old, hundreds and hundreds of years old." Mrs. Gummidge glared at Humboldt. "Honestly, Humboldt, you needn't be all mouth and trousers." "So, big job for little Krasnoludik. How many in your family? Do you have the hobbies?" Izaak plied Humboldt with questions from his Learn English by Tea Time phrasebook. "Well, I have an older sister, Troika. She's awfully nice. My family shrank when I was little. My father was a bit of a roamer and was last seen climbing on a barge bound for Norway. And my mother—" Humboldt hesitated. "Well, it's rather a lot to tell." "Humboldt, with Mrs. Gummidge, you'll never getting lonely." Mrs. Gummidge was watching their interchange fondly. Her little family seemed to be growing. "We'll have to keep Humboldt occupied," she said. Izaak pulled at his tie. "Have you ever made visit with this Queen of England?" "The Queen?" exclaimed Humboldt. Now that was something really brilliant. "Doesn't she go about with a gang of short dogs?" "This is Corgi, special dog made for the Queen. My best friend Chup from the riverbank told me that they're fed bangers and mash in silver bowls made in the 17th century. Yes, tak, Humboldt, this is true. But don't think so much for the corgis. Wouldn't you like to meet the Queen of England? I tell you something, she is friend for Mrs. Gummidge." Humboldt walked over to where Mrs. Gummidge was polishing the sweet jars. He put his paw on her hand. "Is that true?" "You have to see for yourself," she replied. "I wager that the Queen's never met a proper troll before," Humboldt said. Things were looking up. Living with Mrs. Gummidge would definitely not be dreary. At tea time, Mrs. Gummidge sat Humboldt down and spoke to him in earnest. "Humboldt, I've been mulling things over. I say, you could be a splendid help to me in the shop. What do you think?" Humboldt plopped his paws on his head. "Well," he began, "I've never had a proper job before. All the trolls consider me a bit of a lieabout, except Jup and my sister, that is. They knew that my brain was in full production." "Humboldt, that was then, this is now. You mustn't let what other trolls think of you cramp your life. Being helpful isn't hard when you're in good company. You see, Mrs. Gummidge, there was a time I was a jolly fellow, slip-sliding in the mud with my best friend Chup, star-counting with Dodger, cartwheeling down the grassy banks, even somersaulting off the bridge. One day Jup and I built a raft from old wine barrels and pipe fittings, and we paddled all the way to Runnymede and back. We even used to mix blackberries with rainwater to make blackberry cordial. Now everything's spoiled. The rain's gone all greasy, and the blackberry bushes have vanished. Just rusty chain-link fences lying about, and the cordial's dreadful now, so bitter and thin. I got so very sad." A fit of the uglies, Humby, that's all. It won't last. That's what my sister Troika used to tell me to encourage me. She would take me on piggyback and sing, "You're the top troll." But the big old sadness kept sticking to me. Humboldt took off his nightcap and spoke quietly into it. That's why I up and left. Well, Humboldt, that's settled then. How about a proper job here at my shop? You could help out in the kitchen making sweets. You can cook, can't you? Humboldt nodded quickly. When do I start? Come with me to the chamber of magnificent mixing, and you can have a go at making toffee apple coats. You just have to read the recipe, and Bob's your uncle. Humboldt pattered after Mrs. Gimmich to the back kitchen. He is? End of chapter 6. Thank you for listening.